Chapter 2671. Bai Shuo was a man of action. After discussing it with Tanggua, he began to arrange his work for the future. This time, he should be staying abroad for some time. Now that he had to support his girlfriend, he couldn't just sit around and not work. Therefore, he planned to take his work abroad. Anyway, he was a live stream artist. No matter where he was, he could do it. Also, he heard that Shi Xuexin had already made a move against the Shi family. If he guessed correctly, she would compete with Yan Wei once she completely controlled the Shi family. When the two sides met, it would definitely cause a big stir. Tanggua was related to both of them. It was better to take her away from here so that she wouldn't be affected. Although she didn't look like a weak little bunny, he wanted to protect her and keep her in the palm of his hand. After everything was arranged, Bai Shuo took Tanggua abroad to the piece of land that Yame had her eyes on. With the money that Bai Shuo had earned over the years, it was still possible to buy this piece of land and build a castle. However, to build a magnificent and perfect castle, not only would it take time, it would also require a lot of money. He would definitely have to invest a lot of money. Bai Shuo had already thought it through. In the past, he would live stream 3 times a week. In the future, he would live stream 5 times a week. The remaining 2 days would be spent eating with his girlfriend and shopping. After everything was arranged neatly, Tanggua leaned lazily on the sofa and watched TV. Suddenly, she took out a card and handed it to him. "There's some money in here. Since there's nowhere to spend it, use it to build the castle. Shuo, you can arrange it." Bai Shuo looked at the card and felt a little strange. He didn't take it. "I still have the money to build the castle. Isn't this castle for me?" "That's true. Then it's only right that I pay." This time, Bai Shuo didn't refuse. He felt a little sweet. Xiaoguo was paying to build the castle with him. This meant that they were building their future home together. When he found out how much money was in the card, he was shocked by Tanggua's wealth. How did Yan Wei guard such a large amount of wealth and turn a blind eye to it? Bai Shuo saw that Tanggua really didn't care about Yan Wei, so he took the initiative to mention it. "The card you gave me can easily buy half of Yan Wei's shares." Seeing how Tanggua took it out so easily, she must have more than that. Then, did Yan Wei not know that she was so powerful? He doesn't know about these things. Tanggua looked up and said casually, "He didn't ask me either. Why should I?" Bai Shuo always felt that Tanggua's attitude towards Yan Wei was a bit strange. It didn't seem like she was deeply in love with him. He didn't pursue the matter. He only told himself that he would take good care of her and pamper her. Xiaoguo is really amazing. My mom likes to buy all kinds of bags, so I invited a powerful investor to invest in me with the money I earned from selling my paintings. Unknowingly, I've accumulated a lot of money. That's only a small part of it. There's still a large part of it for the long term. System, that investor is actually an investment manager. It's him. Although he didn't have a name and was still using the money he earned from the stock market to support her man, which made him a little jealous, the host didn't forget his contributions. This made him very happy. When Tanggua was in trouble, Yan Wei didn't agree to the other party's conditions. Yi Yame was very angry. Chapter 2672. She went to Yan Wei's place and made a scene. She even scolded Yan Wei in the office building for being a jerk and heartless. She was so angry that she almost fainted. Later, Bai Shuo appeared and took her away. He even said that he was going to save Tanggua. Yi Yame knew that Bai Shuo was the one who bought her bags. Later, when Bai Shuo sold things live, she was also one of the buyers. She thought that Bai Shuo was just a nouveau riche. How could he save her daughter from those outlaws? She was very sad. She even thought that if Tanggua didn't come back, she would fight Yan Wei to the death. She really didn't expect that Bai Shuo would really bring Tanggua back alone. Not only that, but now he was going to build a castle for Tanggua. He even let her see the location of the land. Yi Yame's current mood was that her future son-in-law Bai Shuo was really precious. Fuck Yan Wei, get lost. If he was nouveau riche, so be it. At least he was sincere to her daughter. He was someone who would take out his heart for her daughter. He was many times better than that Yan Wei. The construction of the castle had already started. Bai Shuo rented a very large place and brought his studio staff over. Their working hours were basically from Monday to Friday. On the weekends, they would go out with Tangua to relax. Yiyame was very tactful and didn't disturb them. Now, their days were, Bai Shuo worked, Tangua painted in the garden, and Yiyame learned a foreign language from the language teacher. When she was almost done learning, she actually went to Bai Shuo and said that she was free and wanted to be a nouveau riche. Even if they didn't seem to be short of money, Yiyame still felt that there was nothing wrong with saving more money. In the past, they were just buying things. Now, they could buy things and make money. It seemed more interesting. Tangua and Bai Shuo were very supportive of Yiyame's career. With Bai Shuo's help, Yiyame quickly became a nouveau riche. Yiyame's business had never been bad since she had befriended a lot of people in the past. She had a lot of friends in her circle of friends. When they saw that she actually worked as a purchasing agent and was currently living in a certain country, Yiyame's business had never been bad since the beginning. Yiyame was relieved when she saw the number in her card rising. She even hired a domestic agent for herself and did things in a hurry. A few months had passed, and Shi Shuexin had done some big things in the country. First, with the support of Qin Jinshan's connections, she successfully took over the entire Shi family and chased Father Shi, as well as Shi Roxuan and her mother, out of the Shi family. She also exposed the relationship between Father Shi and the mother and daughter, tearing apart his pretense of affection for his wife. This matter caused an uproar among countless people. What's more, Qin Manjie's accident wasn't an accident at all. Shi Roxian's mother had deliberately hired someone to do it. Shi Shuexin exposed this matter, collected evidence, and successfully sent the other party to prison. Not long after, it was announced that she had changed her surname. Father Shi was heartless and unjust to the mother and daughter, so she didn't have to care about the so-called father-daughter relationship, so she changed her surname. From then on, Shi Shuexin's surname was no longer Shi, but Qin, and her name was Qin Shuexin. After changing her name, Qin Shuexin also changed the name of the Shi Corporation to the Qin Corporation. When Father Shi found out about this, he fainted from anger and scolded his unfilial daughter. Shi Roxuan also hated Qin Shuexin very much. She decided in her heart that no matter what method she used, she would destroy Qin Shuexin. Chapter 2673. Shi Roxian's craziness almost caused Qin Shuexin to suffer a loss. Fortunately, the people Qin Jinshan arranged for her were not to be trifled with. They quickly resolved the crisis. There were actually many people who wanted to obstruct Qin Shuexin. After all, Qin Shuexin was a young lady in her early 20s. Now that she had so many resources in her hands, no one was willing to be suppressed by a young lady. Even if they knew that she had some background, they didn't dare to do anything openly. If they did something secretly, no one would know. Little did they know that these obstacles were nothing more than whetstones for Qin Shuexin. The more they obstructed her, the more she grew. 2 years had passed, and Qin Shuexin was completely different from before. Even without Qin Jinshan's protection, she could still hold her own. Very few people could make her suffer. Tangua had been overseas for the past 2 years. She was very happy to see her castle being built bit by bit. She even drew various designs for the castle. Bai Shuo sighed. He really picked up a treasure. He couldn't wait to put her in his heart. In the future, Tangua would belong to his castle and not the Yen Manners woman. Just thinking about it made him happy. Tangua and Bai Shuo both knew about Qin Shuexin's actions in the country. Tangua didn't interfere in these matters. With Qin Jinshan around, Qin Shuexin was smart and eager to learn. She would definitely win. After 2 years of silence, Qin Shuexin should have made a move on Yen Wei. In the past 2 years, both sides had clashed many times. Especially Yen Wei, who seemed to be more and more interested in Qin Shuexin. Now, everyone in the country knew about Yen Wei's feelings for Qin Shuexin. He even told others that Qin Shuexin was his woman. Qin Shuexin was a little angry at first, but later, she calmed down. "Little miss, the preparations are almost done. When are we going to make a move on the Yen Corporation?" Shi Shuexin sat in front of the desk and stared at the painting on the table. There was a gentle smile at the corner of her eyes and mouth. She actually didn't expect Miss Tang to draw her such a painting. There were flowers, clouds, and the sun. She was walking in the direction of the sun. She was clearly wearing a maid's uniform in the painting, but she saw a very special kind of dawn in it. She was certain that such a scene had indeed happened in the manor. At that time, she should have walked over to trim the flowers and plants, or to wipe the sculpture, but the angle of the painting was different, so it looked like she was running towards the sunlight. Then let's do it. Qin Shueqin carefully put away the painting and put it into a box. The smile on her face disappeared. This time, I want Yan Wei to never be able to get up again. I want him to experience the feeling of falling into a quagmire from a high position. The competition between Qin Shueqin and Yan Wei was something that everyone had expected. However, to everyone's surprise, Qin Shueqin was serious. It wasn't that they thought the two of them were flirting. Time passed day by day. In their eyes, Yan Wei, who was very powerful, actually gradually fell into a disadvantage. It was very shocking. In a year's time, Yan Wei fell. Out of everyone's expectations, Yan Wei fell too quickly. In order to pay off his debts, he had no choice but to sell off the fixed assets under his name. Otherwise, he would face the disaster of being imprisoned. Especially previously, the Yen Corporation had actually borrowed a lot of money from the bank. Chapter 2674. Now that the Yen Corporation was in danger, the bank couldn't sit still and wanted him to return the money. Faced with such a hopeless situation and the fact that Yan Wei had offended too many people previously, no one would help him at all. Therefore, after he lost, it wasn't strange that no one would help him. In the end, Yan Wei was only left with the manor. However, there was no one else inside except for Wu Dong. "Sir, are you okay?" Yan Wei raised his head. What exactly is Qin Shueqin thinking? Wu Dong, do you understand? Sir, I don't know what CEO Qin is thinking, but I know one thing for sure. She hates you, Wu Dong said after hesitating for a moment. Yan Wei's face darkened. I've always wanted to get along well with her. All these years, I've been trying to ease our relationship. Why can't she understand my feelings? It's rare for me to care about such a person. Wu Dong couldn't help but say, Sir, it's rare for you to care about such a person, but she might not care about you. No one else has the obligation to be responsible for your care. Wu Dong's words made Yan Wei very angry. Get lost. Sir. Wu Dong looked at Yan Wei and didn't say anything in the end. From the moment Yan Wei started to fall into a disadvantageous position, Wu Dong understood one thing. There was no one who could cover the sky with one hand. At least, Yan Wei couldn't reach that level. Perhaps, no one in the city could afford to offend Yan Wei in the province because the person who could offend him hadn't appeared yet. Now that he lost, it meant that that person had appeared. As the saying went, there was always someone better than you. Once, he was arrogant too. He had planned to stay with Yan Wei and accompany him. However, Yan Wei didn't seem to appreciate it. Then he should go back to his hometown. Living a peaceful life was actually not bad. He had experienced enough in this life and had experienced everything. Most importantly, he didn't owe Yan Wei anything. Since the other party chased him away, he left with a clear conscience. In the huge Yen manor, only Yan Wei was left. He still couldn't understand. He had given Qin Shueqin countless chances. Every year on her birthday, he would carefully choose a gift to ease her relationship. In order to ease their relationship, he had done so much. But why couldn't that woman see it? And now, he was in such a miserable state. One day, Qin Shueqin was driving back to the villa when the car suddenly stopped. It was raining outside. The driver told her that someone was blocking the car. That person looked a little like Yan Wei. Qin Shueqin got out of the car and looked at Yan Wei, who was standing in the rain. She found it funny. President Yan, it's raining so heavily. Why are you here instead of staying at home? Shueqin. Qin Shueqin was not moved at all by his affectionate tone. She stopped smiling and said, President Yan, if you have something to say, just say it. You're not afraid of the rain, but I'm afraid that the cold wind will make me sick. Is there no chance between us? Qin Shueqin had always wondered if Yan Wei's brain was so weak because he had a high fever when he was young. How could she have any good feelings for a man who had once trampled on her dignity and made her inferior to animals like pigs and dogs? She was not a masochist. President Yan, is there a chance between us? I know I shouldn't have treated you like that in the past. I also regret it very much. I have been making it up to you all these years. You should. Is there any use in regretting it? Qin Shueqin laughed. President Yen, only a person who is sick in the head will fall in love with someone who forced her. I'm not sick in the head. Hurry up and get lost. Yen Wei looked very persistent. I won't give up. I'll stay here and wait for your forgiveness. Up to you. Qin Shueqin turned around and got into the car. The driver changed direction and drove to the villa. The rain continued for a long time. After half a day, Yen Wei's body was burning up. He kept staring in the direction of the villa. At this moment, a car came from afar and finally stopped beside him. Chapter 2675. Yen Wei's attention was attracted by the car parked beside him. After being in the rain for so long, even if he was as strong as an ox, he couldn't take it anymore. If it weren't for his willpower, he might have fainted already. He had never believed that Qin Shueqin would be so cold-hearted. Seeing how persistent he was, she would give him a chance to start over with her. He was very fascinated by Qin Shueqin. If he was just a little fascinated at the beginning, he was now very fascinated by Qin Shueqin. If he couldn't get this woman's heart, he would never be satisfied. The rain was still falling, and the door of the car parked beside him opened. He looked up at the door and was actually a little curious. Was the car parked there on purpose, or was there another reason? When he saw a woman in a white dress and holding an umbrella get out of the car, he understood everything. So it was her, Tangwa. Tangwa stood at the door and didn't move a step. Her eyes were fixed on the drenched Yen Wei. Her expression was the same as before, and no one could see any changes. Yen Wei was a little absent-minded. Speaking of which, he had known this woman since he was young. No matter when he turned around, he would always see that quiet little girl walking behind him. She was still so quiet even after she grew up. She was quiet no matter what she did, as quiet as if she was painting. Even when she liked him so quietly. Speaking of which, she was really different from many women. The rain blurred Yen Wei's vision, but he could still see the woman in front of him clearly. When he saw her, his mood became a little better. If there was anyone in the world who would miss him, it would probably be this quiet woman. Xiaogua. It's raining so heavily outside. Why didn't Mr. Yen go home? What if your body gets wet? Hearing these words of concern, Yen Wei inexplicably choked up, and his eyes became a little hot. If it weren't for the heavy rain, his cheeks would have been wet, and he might have embarrassed himself in front of her. I'm waiting for someone. The corners of Tangwa's lips curled up slightly. Suddenly, she felt her skirt being pulled. A smile appeared on her face. She put one of her hands behind her back, and a big hand immediately wrapped around her hand. In this somewhat cool weather, she actually felt scalding hot. System, host, you're really good at coaxing her big darling. Look, you secretly held his little hand and he stopped being jealous. He's really easy to coax. Waiting for who? Yen Wei looked at the pair of clear eyes in front of him and said, wait for Shueqin. Wait for her to forgive me. Wait for her to reconcile with me. I see. Tangwa lowered her eyes. Yen Wei understood that she was disappointed. He sighed. This woman was good, but unfortunately, he only liked Shueqin. Therefore, he could only let her down. However, he did not know that when she lowered her eyes, there was only calculation and sarcasm. There was no disappointment at all. Mr. Yen, you seem to have waited for a long time. About half a day. If you continue to get wet, it's not good for your health. Yen Wei only felt warm in his heart, but he still refused. This time, I must wait for Shueqin. I know that I was wrong in the past. I see. Tangwa looked up. Then Mr. Yen shouldn't need my umbrella anymore. Chapter 2676. No need. Yen Wei suddenly felt that he was a little cruel, but he liked Qin Shueqin. No matter how perfect the woman in front of him was, no matter how good she was to him, he would not give up on Shueqin. Only Qin Shueqin could arouse his interest. Then I'm the one who thinks too much. Tangwa smiled faintly and turned to get into the car. As she got into the car, her voice floated to Yen Wei's ear. Mr. Yen, if you don't want to wait, you can give me a call. After Tangwa said this, the car door suddenly closed, and from outside the car, no one could see what was inside. Yenwei was still thinking about Tangwa's words, which made his somewhat gloomy world a little brighter. Little did he know that the woman he mistakenly thought was affectionate to him was in the arms of another man, holding her little face and kissing her lips. He even fiercely said in her ear, "Xiaogua, are you reluctant to give him a call?" Bai Shuo asked angrily, "Then why did you ask him to call?" "It's just a casual sentence. This sentence is the same as the next time, don't take it seriously." Tangwa sat up and looked at Bai Shuo's unhappy expression. She held his face and kissed him. "Don't be angry, I don't care about him. I just want to see him in a sorry state. What if he takes it seriously and calls you?" Bai Shuo's heart was bitter. Xiaoguo was too outstanding, attracting men and women. It was too difficult for him. "If he wants to call me, then tell him to get lost. What do you think?" Bai Shuo was no longer angry and held Tangwa's little hand tightly. "Xiaogua, sometimes I really don't understand. Did you like Yenwei or not? If you like him, I didn't see you sad about that incident. If you don't like him, from the news I know, everyone knows that you like him. Even Auntie said so. Is a Shuo in between? No, I don't mind. As long as the person you like now is me, it doesn't matter to me what happened in the past. I just want to know more about you. I always feel that you have some little secret that makes my heart itch. When we grow old together, a Shuo will know what little secret I have." Whether Tangwa was coaxing him or not, Bai Shuo was very happy. Xiaogua had said that she wanted to grow old with him. This was better than anything else. The car drove straight to Qin Shuexin's villa. The arrival of Tangwa made Qin Shuexin very excited. However, she was no longer like before, unable to control her expression. After the others left, she could not help but run to Tangwa happily. "Miss Tang, why did you come all of a sudden? Why didn't you call me in advance? It's raining so heavily. I'll bring someone to pick you up." Bai Shuo maintained his smile and held Tangwa's little hand tightly. Even when Qin Shuexin glared at him, he had no intention of letting go. What a joke. This was his wife. Even if she was a woman, he couldn't be too intimate with her. Moreover, Qin Shuexin was a little too enthusiastic towards his wife. It was better to be on guard. "I wanted to come back and see how you were doing." Qin Shuexin was very happy. "I've been very good these years. I won't be bullied. Although I don't have Miss Tang to take care of me, I can already protect myself very well. However, I still suffered a lot in the beginning. Fortunately, the people Grandpa arranged for me were very capable and accompanied me through many difficulties." Chapter 2677. "Miss Tang, do you know that I destroyed the Yen Corporation?" When Qin Shuexin talked about this, her eyes were especially bright. "Although I'm very indifferent in front of others and it doesn't seem like a big deal, when I'm alone in the study room, I'm so happy that I almost jump up and down. I've finally defeated the person who trampled on my dignity and didn't treat me as a human being." At first, he even announced to the public that I, Qin Shuexin, was his woman. This person is really narcissistic, shameless, and too much. He looked as if he could cover the sky with one hand. Every year on my birthday, he would send something to disgust me. If we met in a restaurant, he would block me. Did he really think that he could block the way just because he looked like a wall? I didn't stand on ceremony and asked the bodyguards to kick him away. But he really didn't give up. Wherever he went, he would flirt with me. Not only is this person despicable, but he's also very disgusting. Once, my hotel room was actually booked under his name. In the end, when I went in, I found him lying inside. Qin Shuexin's expression was ugly when she said this. If I hadn't taken the time to learn Taekwondo, I might have fallen for it again. I'm a 9th degree black belt now. That guy was so touched that I punched him to death. Tangguo was amused this time. She didn't pay attention to Qin Shuexin's situation. She only paid attention to two major events. One was the change of the Shi family's name, and the other was the collapse of the Yen Corporation. She didn't expect Qin Shuexin to practice Taekwondo for her own safety. Now, she was a 9th degree black belt, but she was a high-level one. Her perseverance was not bad. Then you're very good. Miss Tang, how long will you be staying in the country this time? For a while. Qin Shuexin smiled happily. Where do you want to go? I'll arrange it for you. How about it? She glanced at the vigilant Bai Shuo and was a little speechless. I'll get someone to arrange the itinerary for you. This is a token of my sincerity. Tanggua didn't refuse, and Bai Shuo didn't object. It was fine as long as he and Xiaoguo weren't separated. Speaking of which, Qin Shuexin had made it to where she was today. It was truly admirable. Even if she had someone backing her up, she was still quite capable. Yan Wei is outside in the rain. Just in time, Tanggua reminded him. Qin Shuexin glanced outside the house. He has always been a pervert. When it's raining heavily, everyone else will stay indoors, but he likes to stand outside in the rain. Did he really think that my heart would ache if he fell sick from the rain? There's something wrong with his head. What if he really dies of illness outside? Then I can still help him call the crematorium. He wanted to get caught in the rain and died in the end. Do you want me to take responsibility? Qin Shuexin looked at Tanggua suspiciously. Seeing her gently lean on Bai Shuo, she breathed a sigh of relief. Miss Tang didn't seem to be worried about Yan Wei. Compared to Yan Wei, this Bai Shuo was much more pleasing to the eye. Yan Wei was a ruthless person. He stood on the road for a day and a night. When the weather finally cleared and the sun came out, no one went out to check on him. He was woken up by the scorching sun. At that time, Tanggua and Qin Shuexin were standing on the rooftop of the villa. They watched Yan Wei get up from the ground and stumble back down. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but smile when they didn't see any worry in each other's eyes. Chapter 2678. Miss Tang really doesn't care about him anymore. I'm relieved. Tanggua looked at Yan Wei's sorry figure and said softly, why should I care about him? Miss Tang used to be so devoted to him. I thought Miss Tang didn't let him go. Now it seems that I thought too much. Qin Shuexin looked away. Host Bai is a very good man. I heard that in order to build the castle, he originally broadcast 3 times a week, but now it's 5 times. I think he also went shopping with you for 2 days? Yes. Qin Shuexin smiled after hearing Tanggua's response. Okay, Host Bai is not bad. When are you getting married? He said he wants to build the castle before getting married. Actually, I think it's about time. He cares about you. I know, so I'll listen to him. Qin Shuexin's eyes were full of envy. Those who are cared about by Miss Tang are really happy. Then she laughed softly. Even those who are treated differently by Miss Tang are actually lucky. For example, Miss Tang had once looked at her in a different light, wasn't she? Perhaps knowing that Qin Shuexin would not go down, Yan Wei left. However, later on, Yan Wei would always find opportunities to appear in front of Qin Shuexin. He looked infatuated, a little pitiful, and very sorry. Qin Shuexin was not moved by such a Yan Wei. However, some women who did not understand the situation felt unfair for him and said that Qin Shuexin was heartless. Gradually, more and more people were gossiping about Qin Shuexin. There were even some people who had a good relationship with Qin Shuexin. They advised her that it was rare to see such an infatuated person, so she should try to get along with Yan Wei. Those who knew better would not persuade Qin Shuexin to forgive Yan Wei. However, there were more and more public opinions. Qin Shuexin understood that some people did not like her and wanted to use this matter to make trouble for her. Although it would not have a big impact on her company, it would damage her image and cause her psychological pressure. Of course, this was the outside world's misconception. In fact, there were not many things that could cause her psychological pressure after what she had experienced. I've heard that celebrities all write their own autobiographies. I think your experience is pretty good. At least you're already a successful female entrepreneur. There should be a lot of people who are interested in your experience. Now that someone is attacking you, why don't you write an autobiography? Not only will it increase your fame, but it will also let people understand your hard work. At the same time, you can be a role model for more women. Qin Shuexin considered Tanggua's suggestion. Write an autobiography? Was it about her experiences from the beginning? She thought for a while and decided that it was possible. Her experience was from darkness to light. If she wrote this down, Perhaps it could help those who had been in the same despair as her slowly walk out of it. After Tangua's suggestion, Qin Shuexin would spend 2 hours every day to write about her experiences. Everything she wrote was true. Half a year later, she finished the first draft and showed it to Tangua. Tangua said that she could help her with the illustrations. If we want to be famous, let's be famous together. Qin Shuexin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. With Tangua's current fame, did she still need to be famous? Many places invited her to exhibit her paintings. Indeed, Miss Tang was beautiful and kind. Bai Shuo, that pig, took advantage of her. A few months later, Tangua stayed longer than she had planned. After all, she had to help Qin Shuexin draw some illustrations and wait for her to give the book out. After all, things were not over yet. This time, she came back to wait for an ending. Chapter 2679. These days, Yan Wei would still appear in front of Qin Shuexin. The public had mixed opinions about Qin Shuexin. There were even people who made up stories that the Yen Corporation lost because of Yan Wei's deep love for Qin Shuexin. He lost to her on purpose to win back her heart. Because of this fabricated story, Yan Wei had a group of female fans who defended him. They would scold Qin Shuexin on the internet every day. Some male fans also scolded Qin Shuexin on the internet. They said that she was cruel and heartless. They even told others not to give in to such a woman. Otherwise, she might become Qin Shuexin one day. In short, most of the people who didn't know the truth believed that Qin Shuexin was able to defeat the Yen Corporation because of Yan Wei's infatuation. It was impossible not to be angry. However, Qin Shuexin was completing her autobiography and didn't have time to care about it. It was only when Qin Shuexin's autobiography was released that the public opinion calmed down. Qin Shuexin was ruthless. She wanted to slap these people in the face. When the book was released, she spent money to promote it. In less than 2 days, the entire internet, as long as one was online, heard about this book. Actually, many people were interested in Qin Shuexin's growth. The first edition of her autobiography was sold out within a few days. The people who finished reading the book were shocked for a long time. Those who knew Qin Shuexin, especially those who were related to Qin Jinshan, spontaneously helped Qin Shuexin repost her autobiography. They even added a sentence: "It wasn't easy for this young lady to come to where she is today. She made our hearts ache for her and we admire her." This short sentence had already made his attitude clear. Most of the content in Qin Shuexin's autobiography was true, especially those illustrations by Tangua. They were so lifelike that it was as if they could see Qin Shuexin's suffering in the manner. They also found that as long as it happened in the manner, basically every event would be accompanied by a very realistic illustration. As for Qin Shuexin's previous and subsequent experiences, there were also illustrations. However, they felt that these illustrations were missing something. They didn't seem so real. So, Yan Wei is actually a rapist? At this time, someone actually suggested that Qin Shuexin sue Yan Wei. Not only did he violate her, he also restricted her freedom. He had already broken the law. Qin Shuexin, although I also want to sue him and tell him about the crimes he once committed, I don't have any evidence. Even if I have a lot of money, I can't do anything to him without evidence. Of course, during this period, there were still many people who questioned Yan Wei's actions. In fact, some of Yan Wei's female fans even thought that Qin Shuexin was making up a story to smear Yan Wei's reputation. Because everyone found out that she had kicked him to the curb after he'd outlived his usefulness, she couldn't take it anymore and wanted to divert attention. "Tong, I'm counting on you this time." "Yes, Madam Host, I have already packaged the previous video and will send it to Qin Shuexin immediately." Although there were no videos of what happened in the room, he had videos of Qin Shuexin being forcefully dragged into the room many times. There were also videos of Qin Shuexin doing all kinds of chores in the manor and being verbally humiliated by Yan Wei. Qin Shuexin was also shocked when she received the video. After watching the video, Qin Shuexin had to use legal means to protect her interests. Chapter 2680. She was not afraid of losing face at all. After all, she did not rely on her face to make a living. She only felt very good, as if she had vented her anger. Moreover, she could be a role model for women. If she was bullied, she would sue him. Screw him. Yan Wei was sued. Qin Shuexin provided sufficient evidence. Even though she did not see what happened in the room, judging from the sounds, Yan Wei had indeed mistreated her, restrained her freedom, and verbally humiliated her. Just these alone were enough to make Yan Wei suffer. In the end, Yan Wei received the punishment he deserved. Naturally, his reputation was ruined. However, his female fans still did not believe it. They felt that there was something fishy going on. In the end, Qin Shuexin released some videos to the public. They were all scenes of her being humiliated by Yan Wei in the manner. The entire internet was in an uproar. They could not believe that the former owner of the Yan Corporation actually had such a face. Qin Shuexin had won this matter. At this moment, many people on the internet sympathized with Qin Shuexin. They even asked people to stop talking about this matter. After all, it was not easy for her to walk out of this. Seeing this, Qin Shuexin smiled nonchalantly. She had walked out long ago because when she was in despair, she met a very gentle person who held her hand and led her out step by step. Now, she was invulnerable. No one could hurt her. On the day Yan Wei went to prison, he hoped that Qin Shuexin would visit him. Qin Shuexin did not see him. Instead, he saw Tanghua. Looking at the woman sitting in front of him, Yan Wei suddenly felt that he had pursued Qin Shuexin for so long. In the end, that woman had personally sent him to prison. In a daze, he felt a little regretful. Xiaogua, at this time, you are the only one left. There was a faint smile in Tanghua's eyes. She shook her head and said, it's only a few years. You got off easy. Yan Wei was stunned and did not know what to do. Xiaogua, seeing you sentenced to prison, I can rest assured and get married. Yan Wei? Those videos were provided by me. This sentence completely defeated Yan Wei. He stared at Tanghua for a long time before saying, you hate me, don't you? No, I'm just representing justice to destroy trash like you. After saying this, Tanghua winked playfully. Bai Shuo quickly came over to take her hand and carefully led her away. When Yan Wei was sent in, he was still a little confused. Why would Tanghua, who had always treated him wholeheartedly, suddenly become so heartless? Hadn't she always been infatuated with him? A few years later, Yan Wei was released. Things had changed a long time ago. The women who were once within his reach could only be seen on TV or in financial newspapers. That farce back then not only did not bring her any negativity, but it also made her a role model for all the women in the world. Over the years, countless rapists, and criminals were sent to prison by these bastards. And the woman who he thought was deeply in love with him and had stabbed him in the back was actually being kept in the castle of the richest streamer in the world. Every day, she would draw pictures, bask in the sun, and broadcast with him. How happy was that? On the other hand, he had no one to rely on. He had nothing left. After people found out his name, he would be despised. This made him angry out of humiliation, but he couldn't do anything about it. He only felt that his life was dark. Qin Shuexin thought that after she died, she would definitely drink Meng Po's soup and be reincarnated, just like in the legends. Chapter 2681. She didn't expect that when she was on the verge of death, a different memory would appear in her mind. There was a desperate and helpless Shuexin, a Tanghua who was infatuated with Yan Wei, and a Yan Wei who tortured her body and mind but gave her the only hope. In that world, her life was too dark. Even if someone gave her a little bit of light, she couldn't help but grab it. In addition, she had a very important mother, so she had to compromise. What happened inside was different from what happened here. Miss Tang died. She died very miserably. She was with Yan Wei and had a child. From the memory, she could feel that she wasn't happy inside. In that world, her mother didn't wake up and she didn't see her grandfather in her life. She was like a walking corpse in that world. After receiving these memories, Qin Shuexin lost consciousness. But when she woke up, she actually appeared in a familiar place. She suddenly realized that this place was actually the Yan Manor. Why was she here? What was going on? At this moment, she was wearing a thin dress and sitting in the living room. The person in front of her was Wu Dong. He was telling her the rules of the manor. In the end, she had to accept the truth. She was back to the beginning. After being sad for a while, she became happy again. She was back. Could she see Miss Tang again? Qin Shuexin smiled happily, which made Wu Dong feel strange. However, she didn't want to be bullied by Yan Wei this time, especially after receiving the memories of the other Shi Shuexin. She felt that she didn't torture Yan Wei enough in her previous life. This time, she wanted Yan Wei to be defeated faster. That night, when Yan Wei came back and was about to bully Qin Shuexin kicked him in a certain area, almost crippling him. Later, Yan Wei punished her to do manual labor. With the experience of 2 worlds, Qin Shuexin beat the servants in the manor while secretly doing other things. In her previous life, because of Bai Shuo, she didn't have many opportunities to see Miss Tang. In this life, she could spend more time with her. Qin Shuexin waited and waited. Finally, Tanghua, who went abroad for an exhibition, came back. That day, when she heard the noise downstairs, she rushed downstairs excitedly. Before she saw anyone, she smiled widely. But when she saw the person, she was stunned. "Why are you in a daze? This is Miss Tang." Qin Shuexin was indeed stunned, because the Miss Tang in front of her was not the Miss Tang she knew. Their appearances were different, their temperaments were different, and perhaps only their names were the same. She was obviously very beautiful, but in her memories of 2 lifetimes, this was not her face. It was the same face in those 2 lifetimes. The person in front of her was a stranger, but her intuition told her that the other person was the Tanghua of this world. "Hello, Miss Tang." Qin Shuexin sighed. As expected, it wasn't Miss Tang. How disappointing. After that, many things happened. With Qin Shuexin's existence, the Yen Corporation collapsed very early on. She brought her mother out in advance and contacted her grandfather who was abroad. Although her mother only woke up after a long time, at least it was much better than in her previous life. It could be said that in this life, her brilliance was even more dazzling, and her achievements were even more enviable. That's right. Yan Wei, that bastard, was still the Tanghua who had given up on this world. However, she had expected this and saved her. In this life, Yan Wei was also very pitiful. Because she was in a bad mood, the other party wanted to court death again. She was very happy to deal with him. "Miss Qin, I've been very confused. What are you looking at through me?" Qin Shuexin leaned on the sofa and revealed a very innocent smile. "I'm looking at someone. A very good and gentle person. Unfortunately, she was not in this world." Chapter 2682. Are you sure this is real? Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? A woman's voice rang out. Tanghua couldn't help but raise her head to look at the source of the voice. At the same time, she also noticed the furnishings of the place. The place was very spacious and bright. The items placed there were obviously very advanced. From the decorations, this should be the living room. However, this living room was different from the living rooms she had seen before. It didn't have the usual furnishings. In the living room, there was a person that looked like a human but didn't have any signs of life. "Madam Host, that's a robot. The technology here should be pretty good. Besides not being a real person, this robot is no different from a human. Just now, I scanned the robot's chip data and learned some things." The system suppressed its surprise. "Madam Host, do you know where this place is? Where is this place?" In fact, Tanghua already had some guesses. To have such advanced technology, this must be the future world. As for when it was the future, she couldn't guess. Moreover, just now, she also discovered that she had a personal terminal that could browse all kinds of information. It was just that she didn't have time to look at it. "Madam Host, this is the interstellar era, the real interstellar era. There are 2 allied empires in the interstellar era. One is the Great Universe Alliance Empire that you're in now, and the other is the Luo Alliance Empire. According to the information I scanned, the Great Universe Alliance Empire was formed by people of Eastern descent, while the Luo Alliance Empire was formed by people of Western descent. So it's the interstellar era." She remembered that the 2 people in the group were from Emmanuel and Billy. She didn't know if this interstellar era was their interstellar era, the so-called 3,000 small worlds and 3,000 large worlds. Who knew if they were the same world? She hadn't received the memories yet, but she was already looking forward to it. I understand. No matter if there's a problem with her or not, I will suggest to the family that it's best to bring her back. The woman's voice sounded in her ear again. Since more than 100 years ago, the number of plants in the interstellar era has been decreasing. The place Tang Qianqian is currently living on is just a backward planet. For rare fresh fruits and vegetables to appear, there must be a problem. Alright, keep an eye on Tang Qianqian. If there's a need, bring her back. If we can find out about this, others will find out too. After saying this, the woman ended the call with the other party. She didn't know if she felt Tanggua's gaze. She turned around and glanced at her. I'm going out. The woman's tone towards Tanggua was very stiff. It even made Tanggua feel a little cold. Tanggua nodded gently and watched the woman leave the living room. At this moment, she relaxed and leaned back on the sofa. She closed her eyes and began to receive the memories. After looking through the memories, she opened her eyes and couldn't help but curse. The woman's name was Tang Qingru, Tang Qianqian's half-sister. Chapter 2683. At the same time, she had another identity. She was the wife of the youngest major general in the Universe Alliance Empire, He Ting. 9 years ago, Tang Qingru married He Ting with a child. However, after the two of them got married, they rarely spent time together and rarely spent time together. As for her, she was the child who was brought to the marriage. The cliché thing was that she was not Tang Qingru's daughter, but Tang Qianqian's daughter. That's right, it was very exciting this time. She became the daughter of the female lead of this world, Tang Qianqian. Of course, even if she was the female lead's daughter, she was still a supporting female lead. Since she could be transmigrated, this identity definitely did not have a good ending. Tang Qianqian and Tang Qingru were both daughters of family Tang. However, one was the glory of family Tang, while the other was the shame of family Tang. The head of family Tang did not marry, but he had many lovers. However, Tang Qianqian's mother died not long after giving birth to her. Tang Qianqian's spiritual power was at the trash level, while Tang Qingru's spiritual power was at the superior level. As for He Ting as the male lead, his standard was spiritual power, which was the highest level in the galaxy. In the galaxy, spiritual power was very important. No matter what one did, they needed to use spiritual power. Especially in the Galactic Military Academy, the lowest level of spiritual power was at the superior level. When people of this level came out, they could only be assistants in the end. They were not qualified to use mechas and a series of combat equipment. Family Tang and the He family had always been in contact with each other through marriage. In everyone's eyes, He Ting of the He family and Tang Qingru of the family Tang were a perfect match. However, what the outside world did not know was that Tang Qingru had a secret. Her body was defective. In a battle, her body was injured very seriously. She had no chance of getting pregnant in the future. Even if the galaxy's medical technology was advanced, there was no way. In Tang Qingru's generation, only Tang Qingru was qualified to marry the daughter of the He family. Moreover, for a man with spiritual power like He Ting, the woman must be at least at the superior level to be worthy of him. It could be said that their marriage had always been under a lot of restrictions. Even if He Ting wanted to marry a useless person, it was impossible. Anyway, there would be countless obstacles. He Ting was such an outstanding man. Even Tang Qingru, who was outstanding herself, liked him. However, after she was injured, she was very distressed about this matter. The family Tang would definitely not let go of a son-in-law like He Ting. Once this generation did not have a marriage alliance, the relationship between the two families would drift apart. Furthermore, the number of plants in the interstellar space was getting lesser and lesser, and no one knew what would happen in the future. If they were to form a rope, they would have to be thankful for their chances of winning when it came to snatching resources in the future. Therefore, the Tang family people came up with an idea. As long as they had the intention, it would not be difficult for Tang Qianqian to get pregnant and have a child instead of Tang Qingru. Under the pressure of her family, Tang Qianqian had no choice but to agree to their request and sleep with He Ting. Because of the medicine they provided, in fact, this medicine also had a certain degree of harm to the body. Tang Qianqian, who had a hard time in the family, had no room to refute. She could only accept it. Of course, there was another reason why everything went so smoothly. It was because Tang Qianqian had been in love with He Ting since they were young. She knew that she didn't have the chance to legally marry He Ting. Now that she could give birth to He Ting's child and have him for one night, she agreed in the end even though she felt a little aggrieved. Chapter 2684. After she got pregnant, she was secretly raised by the family. When she gave birth, the family gave her a huge sum of money and sent her to a backward planet to live. As long as it was her material request, the family would provide it. The condition was that she was not allowed to come back and keep this a secret. Of course, during her pregnancy, Tang Qingru did not appear in the eyes of the outside world. This was why no one suspected anything when Tang Qingru married He Ting with the child. However, as the person who married Tang Qingru, He Ting actually had doubts in his heart. He only had the honor of the Allied Empire in his eyes. He did not have any romantic feelings at all. As for marrying Tang Qingru, he did not object. After all, he did not like anyone. When he found out that Tang Qingru had given birth to his child and that it was really his daughter, he was actually a little shocked. This was because he already knew that Tang Qingru's body was actually damaged and she could not get pregnant. He secretly looked into this matter and found out the truth. However, he still chose to get married. The family's choice was undoubtedly correct. Since this was the family's choice, there was no need for him to expose anything. However, he was not very interested in women. After getting married, he basically did not interact much with Tang Qingru. Tang Qingru was also a taciturn person. At the same time, she had her own pride. She liked He Ting a little, but she would not lower herself to curry favor with him. Naturally, they, who had been married for 9 years, had always been a couple in name. They did not have many opportunities to meet each other all year round. If nothing went wrong, they should continue to live peacefully like this. The two of them might not warm up, but for the common interests of the two families, they would not have any conflicts. After all, Tanguo was really He Ting's daughter. Tanguo's name was indeed Tanguo now. The reason was that He Ting was not at home all year round. Tang Qingru was cold and arrogant. She was very angry that He Ting went to do a mission the day after they got married. When they named her, they directly let Tanguo's surname be Tang. In the interstellar era, taking the surname of one's mother and father was no longer as important as in the ancient era. The turning point of the matter happened when Tang Qianqian, who was far away on a backward planet, awakened a very special ability in a crisis. Any plant that she had given spiritual power could grow and survive. This ability was later known as life spiritual energy in the interstellar era. Although Tang Qianqian tried to cover up this matter, when she took out fresh fruits and vegetables on a backward planet and where she lived, the growth of the plants was especially good. It was unlike other places that looked dry and gray, as if they were about to die. This phenomenon caused many people to be suspicious. Just now, Tanguo had heard Tang Qingru's voice. It was her people who had inadvertently discovered this matter and contacted her through their personal terminal to send this news back. If there were no changes to the plot, everyone now knew that on a certain backward planet, there was a young woman who actually had a lot of fresh plants in her house. It seemed that they were growing very well. They had already sent people to look for Tang Qianqian. Tang Qingru's people reacted a step slower. In the end, Tang Qianqian was taken away by another party. At this moment, Tang Qianqian was in a situation where she was being fought over by various parties. One moment, it was snatched away by one side, and the next moment, it was snatched away by another side. Chapter 2685. But as the female lead, she was always lucky enough to escape the experiments and live well. In the end, she had no choice but to fall into the hands of the male lead, He Ting. But it had been a while since Tang Qianqian fell into the hands of the male lead, He Ting. Now, He Ting also knew about Tang Qianqian's abnormality. When Tang Qianqian met people who were good to her, she would crazily help them grow plants. causing many people to go crazy. Even He Ting's side could not sit still. At this time, the fate of the original host also changed. He Ting knew that Tanguo was Tang Qianqian's daughter, so he started to go home frequently and bring Tanguo to a secret laboratory to take her blood for experiments. But because there were disloyal people around him, the original host's identity as Tang Qianqian's daughter was exposed. The original host did not have the halo of a female lead. She was snatched away and would only end up as an experiment subject. The person who snatched the original host was a candidate for the heir of the Zhouhao Alliance Empire. After falling into the hands of the other party, the original host was experimented on like a lab rat every day, and her blood was taken away. After Tang Qingru knew about this, she tried to stop it. But with her own strength, she was unable to snatch the original host back. She asked her family for help. Family Tang and the He family were also very anxious about this matter. In the end, they decided to tell Tang Qianqian about this. Her daughter had been kidnapped, so Tang Qianqian would definitely come back. Tang Qingru thought that if Tang Qianqian came back, she might be able to save the original host. She had no idea that Family Tang and the He family were waiting for Tang Qianqian to come back and secretly hide her. They were doing experiments on their own. They had to find out what Tang Qianqian's special ability was. When Tang Qianqian found out about her daughter, she was very anxious. She thought of many ways and finally escaped from the place where she was controlled. In the end, she secretly came back. Of course, once she came back, she was faced with many people fighting over her. In the end, she chose to return to He Ting's side. Even after going through so much, she still adored He Ting. In addition, he was her daughter's father. In short, there was a very special feeling. In the end, He Ting negotiated with the other party. Tang Qianqian provided some blood for the other party to let the original host go. The original host did not have Tang Qianqian's ability, so she was let go. However, when it came to the fact that she had been reduced to an experimental subject and her father's sudden closeness to her back then, it turned out that it was to test whether she had the ability to make plants grow. The little girl's heart turned cold. What was even more unacceptable was that her mother was not Tang Qingru, but Tang Qianqian. Even if Tang Qianqian wiped her tears every day and said that she had suffered and would protect her in the future, she could not move her. She hated Tang Qianqian's infatuation with He Ting. He Ting had hurt her, but her biological mother had brushed it aside and even flirted with the person who had hurt her. Because of the experiment, the original owner's mental strength was almost crippled. Even her body became very weak. After all, in those few months, the young her had a lot of blood extracted every day. Seeing the situation between Tang Qianqian and He Ting, Tang Qingru proposed to cancel the engagement. Based on various circumstances, Tang Qianqian was obviously more important than Tang Qingru. They also needed to give Tang Qianqian an identity. Once she became the wife of a major general, at least the people of the Great Universe Alliance Empire would have to think twice before making a move on her. The ruler of the empire would not offend the Tang and He family for Tang Qianqian. Chapter 2686. Later on, Tang Qianqian successfully became the wife of a major general. But He Ting did not like her at that time. He only wanted benefits. But Tang Qianqian loved this man. No matter what he asked for, she would agree. Under the protection of several parties, Tang Qianqian made the Zhouhao Alliance Empire grow more and more plants. And it was discovered that she was the only one in the entire galaxy who had this ability. Even though Tang Qianqian tried to make it up to the original host every day, she still could not move the original host. Of course, the days could not be peaceful. The changes that Tang Qianqian brought to the Zhouhao Alliance Empire made the Luoluo Alliance Empire very anxious. In the end, they found that Tang Qianqian cared a lot about the original host's daughter. So, the unlucky daughter of the female lead was kidnapped again. Of course, after she was kidnapped, the first thing they did was to conduct all kinds of experiments on her. They only needed to keep her alive. If the experiments were not successful, they would negotiate with Tang Qianqian. In order to save the original host, Tang Qianqian finally agreed to their conditions and secretly went to the Luoluo Alliance Empire. Tang Qianqian risked her life to save the original host. Finally, the original host was moved. At least she did not hate her as much as before. At least this person was her mother who was willing to risk her life to save her. Of course, she still could not accept the fact that Tang Qianqian and He Ting were together. Even though she was young, she could tell that He Ting did not have any feelings for Tang Qingru or Tang Qianqian. He married Tang Qingru because the two families needed a marriage alliance. He married Tang Qianqian because of her special ability. But after all, they were the male and female leads. After going through hardships together, He Ting slowly fell in love with Tang Qianqian. Of course, during this period, the original host, Tang Qianqian's daughter, was often kidnapped by various parties because of her special ability. They used her to threaten Tang Qianqian. Tang Qianqian had to compromise for the original host. Many times, she threw herself into the arms of the enemy. And He Ting walked on the road to save Tang Qianqian. Of course, there were many supporting male leads. Whether it was because of Tang Qianqian's special ability or because they liked her, they would go through fire and water for her every day. In the end, the original host, the daughter of the female lead, suffered countless hardships and countless experiments. In the end, she became a useless person. Tang Qianqian cried every day. As for those supporting male leads, they either died, were crippled, or withdrew. He Ting was a winner in life. He had a wife with special abilities. He had glory and was promoted to the rank of general. He was the youngest general. Tang Qianqian finally got together with her sweetheart, and her sweetheart still loved her deeply. Because of what had happened to the original owner, He Ting, who had fallen in love with Tang Qianqian, felt guilty and wanted to make it up to her for the rest of his life. Tang Qingru was still that brave female warrior. She died in a battle. With her pride, she didn't participate in the battle between Tang Qianqian and He Ting. As for the original owner, she later had many younger brothers and sisters. Every one of them had the lowest spiritual power and was called trash by the outside world. And because of Tang Qianqian's favoritism towards her, she was angry but could not vent it. However, due to Tang Qianqian's favoritism and her strange temper, her younger siblings did not like her and basically isolated her. Even though she had suffered a lot of injuries back then, with the development of medicine and Tang Qianqian's production, she had lived for a long time, but she had lived a very painful life. Until her death, she hated He Ting. After reading these memories, Tangua could feel the deep grievances of the original owner. She had lived too miserably in her life. Congratulations, Madam Host, you got what you wanted. The system had just finished reading the plot. Madam Host, do you want to enter the group to contact them now? Of course. I didn't expect this to be Emmanuel and Billy's interstellar world. Thinking of their encounter in the plot, Tangua couldn't help but laugh. In the plot, they became cannon fodder just as they wished. Tangua entered the group. School bell, Emmanuel, Billy, are you there? Chapter 2687. As soon as Tangua popped up in the group, a lot of people popped up. Ziyun, sis, did you go to a new place this time? You even took the initiative to ask about them. Do you need help with anything? Mo Yuntian, in my opinion, you're worried about them. After all, the small world they're in is still in danger of the plants dying. Let's send them some fresh plants. We all know that once there's no more plants in the world, it means that it's not far from extinction. Qi Shao, that's right. Plants represent life. Speaking of which, after so many years, I'm starting to feel uncertain. I'm really worried that something might have happened to the two of them. Recently, I've been researching whether or not I can craft some useful immortal artifacts. When the time comes, I might be able to save their lives. Margaret, didn't Emmanuel say that plants won't go extinct so quickly? But it's good to be prepared. Misty Fairy, I remember what Billy said last time. Although there are still many living plants in the galaxy, their growth isn't very good. Even some ordinary fruits have become a luxury in the galaxy. It's impossible to grow new seedlings. Maybe one day those fruit trees will die. When discussing this matter, the people in the group were all very worried. It could be said that in the world they were in, they might not be able to find one or two trustworthy people. And with the existence of this interplanar trading group, as they slowly got along, this was the only place where they could open their hearts and talk about their little secrets. Whether it was giving or being given, they were all here willingly. They didn't have any ulterior motives. Even if they lost an old friend like this, they would still feel very sad. Silver Hoop Wander. By the way, Campus Belle, why are you asking about them? Campus Belle, I have some business with them. Tangwa purposely didn't say where she was. She tried her best to keep them in suspense. Her current environment wasn't very dangerous. Speaking of which, she hadn't talked to her friends in the group for a long time. Every time she showed up, she would leave in a hurry. Sometimes, it was Tong Zi who helped her greet them and keep her safe. Campus Belle, they don't seem to be here. I'll talk to them when they come. First, I'll send you some red packets and delicious food. I'm not busy this time, so we can chat. Mo Yuntian, that's great. It's rare that you have time to chat with us. The current Tangwa was only a 7-year-old girl. Even though she was the daughter of the male lead, she still had to take some classes. However, most of the classes were on her personal terminal. She could just study at home. When it was time to test it, it would be on a personal terminal. There was no need to run around. Even mental strength training could be done on the personal terminal. Only those who needed to do experiments or learn how to use combat equipment would go to specialized schools. However, at her current age, she was not qualified to do so. During group classes, she would also listen to the teacher's live stream with her classmates through her personal terminal. Therefore, in this interstellar world, there were no kindergartens, primary schools, or middle schools. In terms of time, she had more than enough. About 2 hours later, Billy and Emmanuel appeared, and everyone in the group stopped chatting. Chapter 2688. After scrolling through the long chat history, they found out that Tangwa had asked for them. The moment they appeared, they asked why Tangwa was looking for them. Emmanuel, don't worry, beauty. I'm doing fine, although the situation in the galaxy isn't looking good. At least, with your support and my family's status, survival isn't a problem. Billy, actually, what I want to say is that I just received a piece of news recently. This piece of news might be a huge turning point for the Interstellar Alliance. Emmanuel, Billy, are you talking about the flourishing plants on the remote Phoenix Tail planet between the continent and the Universe Alliance Empire? I heard from my family that the person related to those plants is a woman. Billy, so you know about it too. It seems that this matter isn't a secret in the galaxy. I think many forces have already sent people to look for that woman. Her identity is unknown, but from the attitude of all forces, it seems that they are determined to find her. Emmanuel, of course. It's been a long time since a plant was cultivated. Her existence has undoubtedly brought hope to the galaxy. It was just that this was hope, but it might also bring about a calamity to the interstellar space. Billy was silent. Yes, it might also bring disaster to the galaxy. Because the galaxy was never peaceful. Everyone was selfish. They all hoped that their enemies would all die so that they could become stronger and stronger. Tangwa saw that the two of them were deep in discussion and worry, so she didn't disturb them. When the two of them came back to their senses, they remembered that the most important thing right now was to chat with their beauty. Talking about those unhappy things seemed to affect their mood. Emmanuel, Campus Belle, where did you go this time? You asked for Billy and me. Do you need anything? Beauty, yes, we're in a new place. Speaking of which, I'm a little surprised that we're here. That's why I couldn't wait to find you too. Everyone in the group was stunned when they saw this. Then they were shocked. It can't be, right? They weren't idiots. Tangwa had said it so clearly and asked for these two guys. It was obvious that the world that appeared this time was related to them. Xian. Sister, are you really in the interstellar era of Billy and the others? Emmanuel and Billy were so excited that they forgot to speak for a while. On the other hand, the other people were discussing this matter in full swing. Among them, Margaret seemed to be overjoyed. Margaret, oh my God, I think I've discovered a great secret. Whenever there's a disaster in our group, the Campus Belle will always be there. Although my idea is a little bad and will make people want to curse me, I still want to say, please let disaster befall the magic world as soon as possible. I curse this magic world with my soul to bring disaster. Harold, you're poisonous. Alan, you just found out. Not only was this woman poisonous, but she was also a very evil sorcerer. After a while, Emmanuel and Billy finally reacted. Emmanuel, school beauty, where are you? Do you want me to pick you up? Your identity seems to be very pitiful every time. The universe is so dangerous. Let me protect you. Chapter 2689. Billy, school beauty, did you end up on some abandoned planet? Other than that, I can't think of anything worse. Emmanuel, no, I think that the body that the school belle is possessing right now is most likely a psychic trash. School beauty, don't misunderstand. Although the original owner is a mental trash, I believe you can change your fate. Billy, school beauty, give me your coordinates. I'll come pick you up myself. Emmanuel, you don't have to fight with me over this, right? Emmanuel, General Billy, don't forget your position. You're the general of the Luo Alliance Empire. Your mission is to protect the Luo Alliance Empire. Right now, the Empire is in a tense situation. You shouldn't leave without permission. You should stay at your post. I'm different. I'm just a beautician. I have a lot of time. Let me pick up the school beauty. I don't mind the trouble at all. Billy, how come I remember that you're just a little beautician on the surface? You're the young master of the Christie family. I remember that the Luo Empire's research on many advanced drugs came from you, right? You're a precious talent of the Luo Alliance Empire. You should be protected secretly. With your noble status, how can you personally take the risk to go to a waste planet? If you encounter any danger, it'll be a huge loss to the entire Luo Alliance Empire. I don't think anyone will agree to let you pick someone up. So, you should just stay in the lab. Don't get into any danger. The people in the group were dumbfounded. Billy, who was always quiet, and Emmanuel, who was always very gentlemanly, were actually arguing in front of everyone in the group. The reason was that they were fighting over who should pick up a person. Ziyun, Mo Yuntian, and Qi Shao were sitting in the main hall. They opened their eyes and smiled at each other. They couldn't help but think of the time when the campus bell went to their world. They were just like Billy and Emmanuel, arguing endlessly. In the end, things actually developed in a dramatic direction. Speaking of which, they sighed with emotion. They felt that these two were funny and childish. At the same time, they could understand their feelings. In fact, if the school beauty wasn't in this group, they wouldn't have built such a deep friendship. Billy and Emmanuel argued for an hour about who should pick up Tangua. In the end, they stopped arguing and expressed that they should ask who Tangua wanted to pick up. They secretly thought that it would be best to choose them. At the very least, the two of them could go together. School belle, you guys are wrong this time. I'm not on the waste planet. My identity is pretty good. I'm the daughter of a major general. I'm currently in the Cosmos Alliance Empire. As for the original owner's spiritual power, it wasn't trash. It was tested to be level. Tangua's words shocked Emmanuel and Billy. Although there are a lot of people in the interstellar space, Tangua just happened to possess this person's body. They couldn't help but guess what kind of person he is and what kind of things he has experienced to have spiritual power at such a high level, yet he still has such a miserable life. That's right, through Tangua's sharing with them, they understood that every time Tangua possessed a character, they would end up in a miserable state in the future, or even die a miserable death. In short, it would make people feel a bit pitiful and regretful. Moreover, she was the daughter of a major general. They seriously suspected that in the future, the Cosmos Alliance Empire and the Luo Empire would fight and destroy each other. Chapter 2690. Emmanuel, so, the campus bell doesn't need our help at the moment. Since your status is high and you don't seem to be in any danger, why don't we find some time to get together? To be honest, Billy and I have always been envious of Ziyun and the others for being able to meet you. Billy, if it's not convenient for you to come, we can come to you. Right now, the two empires are relatively peaceful and there are no conflicts. We have a common enemy, interstellar pirates, bandits, and the invasion of some dangerous alien creatures. These are the things that give us a headache. We don't have time to develop internal conflicts. Campus Belle, if you want to meet, only you can come. With my current situation, I can't go to your place for the time being. After all, I'm only 7 years old. Emmanuel, Billy. The people in the group were stunned when they heard that Tangua was only 7 years old. Speaking of which, she was the youngest of the Campus Belle's possessed identity. At 7 years old, it was indeed impossible for her to go to their place alone. Moreover, she was the daughter of a major general of the Cosmos Alliance Empire. If she was really set up by someone with bad intentions, there might be some trouble. Margaret, Campus Belle, excuse me. I want to ask, since you went to that guy's world, did they have a tragic ending? Were they cannon fodder? Can you tell us the plot in advance? Since the Campus Belle went to that world, Margaret was not worried that the two of them would be in any danger. With the Campus Belle, no matter how dangerous it would be fine. Tangua felt that Margaret was indeed a little perverted sometimes. Her focus was always so strange. She now had no doubt that from what Harold and Alan said, the former Margaret must have been a lunatic. After all, only Margaret would make a fuss when she saw her. She didn't know why she would be cannon fodder in the future and why she would be so miserable. Yet, she would still be so excited to type those words. Campus Belle, they are indeed cannon fodder, but their scenes are quite important. They should be cannon fodder male supporting characters. Emmanuel, so they are supporting characters? Then what happened to me in the end? Campus Belle, in the near future, you, Emmanuel, will fall madly in love with a woman. You will go through fire and water for her. Even if you can't have her body, she will be willing to give her heart. Even if your family is against it and the outside world is against it, you will still help her. In the end, you succeed in dying. Emmanuel, it sounded weird. What did he mean by successfully dying? Emmanuel was a great pharmacist. How could he be so crazy over a woman? The people in his family were the people he valued the most. How could he hurt his own family for a woman? However, Emmanuel did not doubt Tangua's words. In fact, he believed her deeply. It must be the effect of the female lead's halo that made him faint. Billy, what about me, school beauty? Even if I die in the end, I should die bravely for the Luo Alliance. After all, this is the glory of dying as a general. In fact, when Billy asked this question, he was also a little uncertain. That damned female lead halo, from the school belle's past experience, he knew that it was a very scary thing that couldn't be explained by science. School belle, no, your death is the biggest failure in your life. You've brought shame to your entire family and left a mark of shame on your success. Billy, Emmanuel, that's hilarious. Admiral Billy, I'm very curious. What will you do in the future that will bring shame to the entire Beausville family? Chapter 2691. Emmanuel wasn't the only one who was curious. Everyone in the group was curious. General Billy of the Luo Alliance Empire had always been the idol of the entire empire. He represented justice and bravery. What made him do such a terrible thing? Tangua saw that they were curious and didn't intend to hide it. Campus Belle, Billy will also fall in love with the woman that Emmanuel likes in the future. He will go crazy for her and fight for her. As for the shameful thing you did, that woman asked you for help. You were supposed to resist the invasion of the mutants, but to help that woman, you left for a while. However, that short moment caused the entire army to lose their leader. The morale of the army was in chaos. In the end, countless soldiers were killed by the mutants. Many mechas and battleships were also destroyed. Don't you think that brought shame to your entire family and your empire? Billy, why would I do such a stupid thing? Just hearing the Campus Belle's statement made me want to kill myself. Like Emmanuel, he didn't suspect that Tangua was lying. Since she said it out loud, it must be true. Even though he was a little angry at his foolish self, he was also relieved. Since the Campus Belle was here, it meant that he wouldn't make such a mistake again. Campus Belle, in the end, you felt guilty for this mistake. After sending that woman away, you were put on trial and lost your position as general. However, because you felt guilty, you felt that you had let down your family, people, and empire. You went to resist the mutants alone. In a few decades, Countless mutants died in your hands. In the end, you stood on a small abandoned planet and died without a corpse. Billy, that's my personality. However, I won't allow such a thing to happen. I won't make such a mistake. I won't joke about the lives of my soldiers. I'll bring shame to my family and disappoint the people of the Empire. Emmanuel, Campus Belle, I'm very curious. What kind of woman could make Billy and me lose our minds for her? We went through fire and water for her and ended up in such a miserable state. I wondered if she was carrying some kind of strange drug that actually lowered my and Billy's IQ. The people in the group couldn't help but laugh when they saw this. In fact, they all knew a little about the female protagonist's halo. Once infected, it was easy to lose yourself in front of it. No matter how smart or powerful you were, you might not be able to wake up. Those who weren't bewitched would be unlucky in the end. Zi-Yun and the other two knew a little about this kind of rule. They believed that this kind of halo was a blessing from the heavens. All kinds of miracles would happen when one's luck. Campus Belle, didn't you know a piece of news? As for the survival of the universe, it's the woman on planet Phoenix Tail that fascinates you. Billy, oh, I understand. Don't worry. I won't be bewitched by her. Emmanuel, why don't I apply for permission to do an experiment? No, I haven't even met the Campus Belle yet. Also, if that woman is brought back, the Empire might want me to study her. Billy, don't worry, I'll slap you hard. I promise you'll wake up immediately. Chapter 2692. Emmanuel, if you're not sober, I'll give you a slap in return. Billy, since I know how things are going to develop as a soldier of the Empire, I'll restrain myself. I don't need your supervision. So, Emmanuel, thank you for your kindness. Emmanuel, you're an old fox. Tangua was in a good mood as she watched them tease each other. Her mother in this life was the female lead. She had a headache. If the female lead was a bad person, it would be easier to deal with her. But Tang Qianqian wasn't bad. For her daughter, she could disregard her own safety and even sacrifice her life. But she had a love-struck brain. She was obsessed with Yiting. Anyone in her position would feel aggrieved. Forget it. Let's see how things develop first. Anyway, she still had to deal with this scumbag, Yiting. School bell? Oh right, Billy Emmanuel about that woman. If you meet her, please stay away from her and don't hurt her. Billy and Emmanuel were very curious. But school bell, it's a pity. She's the mother of this body. Billy Emmanuel friends in the group, can it be like this? This is so interesting. After hearing this news, Emmanuel and Billy complained in their hearts. After knowing that meeting that woman would make their IQ drop, they expressed that they would stay away from her. According to the plot, the probability of that happening was very small. Now that they knew that woman was the school bell's mother, it was even more impossible for them to have anything to do with that woman. To be honest, they didn't even dare to think about being the school bell's father. How would they dare? This time, Tangwa stayed in the group for a long time. After Tang Qingru left, half a day had passed. She didn't come back. Things must be serious. She was also an outstanding female warrior. She couldn't stay at home all the time. She often had missions to do. Basically, the original owner of the body lived alone at home. Everyone in the He family was very busy. She had level mental power, so of course she was highly valued. For this kind of family, they would receive a lot of training from a young age. They would learn some lessons that ordinary people couldn't learn. They would even learn how to use some combat equipment in advance. After entering an excellent military school in the Alliance, his starting point was much higher than many others. What was even more likely was that such a genius had already piloted a mecha and gone out on missions with the elders of his family before enrolling in the school. He wasn't someone that the normal members of the interstellar galaxy could compare to. Before Tangwa left the group, she added Billy Emmanuel on her personal terminal account as a friend. She told him that she would use this account to contact him in the future. It was more convenient in the galaxy. Billy also said that he would have a vacation after a while. When the time came, he would take advantage of his vacation and come over with Emmanuel to meet her. The xenogenic creatures didn't invade at any time either. There were usually armies stationed there. There was a certain frequency to their invasions. Once the humans got used to their frequency, they would know when to send more warships to eliminate them. After exiting the group, the people in the group were actually a little unsatisfied. They hadn't chatted like this in a long time. As for Emmanuel and Billy, they were both excited and eager. Chapter 2693. They didn't have much hope for Tang Chanxian, the woman who brought hope to the galaxy. Perhaps it was because Tanggua's experience in the small world would always bring changes to the world. They subconsciously felt that if Tanggua came, there would definitely be a solution to their galaxy crisis. Even they themselves didn't realize that they already had a kind of blind trust in Tanggua. Tang Qingru didn't come back that day. Under the care of the smart robot butler, Tanggua quickly got used to life in the galaxy. Not everyone in the galaxy ate things like nutrition pastes. Families with better backgrounds wouldn't choose to eat nutrition pastes every day, which only replenished the body's energy. This was also a kind of torture for the people in the galaxy. There were only a few situations where nutrition pastes were used. The soldiers who went to fight the mutant creatures would bring a lot of nutrition pastes to the warehouse of the battleship for convenience and to quickly replenish their energy. Even if the plants weren't destroyed, many vegetables and fruits were very expensive to the people in the galaxy. Some ordinary people would choose to eat nutrition pastes to save money and time. They might only have a good meal and enjoy delicious food when they received their salary. But those who had some conditions and money would mostly choose to eat in the most primitive way to replenish their energy. As for cooking and housework, they were all done by smart robots. Even some poor people would have a smart robot at home. However, this version of the robot might be older. When it was broken, it would be repaired. After all, ordinary people couldn't replace it when it was broken. It would be repaired until it couldn't be used anymore. Ordinary people in the galaxy hoped that there would be one or more members with spiritual power in their family. Once they appeared, their ordinary status would rise to a whole new level. After dinner, Tanggua washed up and went to lie down. She opened her personal terminal and wanted to understand the galaxy a little. Since she was here, there was one thing she wanted to solve. That was why the plants in the galaxy were slowly dying. According to Emmanuel, they were infected with a strange virus. But until now, they hadn't been able to figure out the composition of this strange virus. There was another good news. The death of the plants seemed to be slowing down. Even if it slowed down, the current situation in the galaxy wasn't optimistic. Once there were no more plants, it would be the end of the universe. She didn't care. After all, she would leave this place after she died of old age. But she had Emmanuel and Billy, her two friends, and she didn't want to lose them. There wasn't much information available on the internet. After all, it was impossible for these research reports to be made public at any time to avoid causing panic among the interstellar humans. Even though panic had already been created, it wasn't too chaotic yet. Little Tongzi, with your current ability, can you find the source of this polluting plant? I haven't tried it yet, but I can try to track it. He wanted to see if he could capture the virus that caused the plants to wither. Alright, if it weren't for the fact that it's inconvenient for me to leave right now, I would really want to go to the place where all the plants are dead. I should be able to see something. Actually, dear host, you don't have to worry. Even if you can't solve it, you still have that cheap mother of yours. Chapter 2694. As long as she lived well, there wouldn't be any problems in the galaxy. Didn't the storyline mention that plants withered slower and slower? Your cheap mother could live for thousands of years. Yes, speaking of which, Emmanuel and Billy are from the galaxy. Their lifespans are only a few thousand years. They can't live forever like me. The system didn't know what to say. It knew very well that once the host cared about someone, she would be sad to lose even one of them. Because there were very few people who cared about the host and cared about the host. After traveling through so many worlds, the only people who cared about the host were that group. Tongzi, I didn't have time to look at the situation below the heavenly spring. Can you help me take a look and see if there's another light? The system hurriedly went to take a look and quickly came back. It said in shock, "Host, there's really another light." That path has advanced further. The system was excited. Could it be that the path really led to the outside world and left the small world? It's just as I thought. There's a light in each world. Tangwa buried her head and smiled. She held it with both hands. Previously, I only felt that the heavenly spring was getting brighter and brighter. Sometimes, I didn't even need to go in to lie down. I didn't even notice that there were lights below. I remember that the heavenly spring only had a little bit of light at the beginning. I've traveled through many worlds, but there were only about 30 lights that lit up. Do you know why? Host, although I've become smarter, I definitely don't know something that you don't know. He didn't even understand himself, so he was even more confused about the heavenly spring. I know, Tangwa said with a smile in her eyes. Through these few worlds and the previous worlds, I understand how to light up those lights. The system was a little itchy. Host, stop keeping me in suspense. What's the reason? When I'm happy in a small world, I can light up a light. The system was shocked. Could it be like that? Then, the heavenly spring should be on the host side. But why did the system want the host to complete the female supporting character's mission and live on in her place and continue her destiny? Could it be that he was broken midway? Or, was it really like what the silly System 222 said, that he was a half-finished product? Or was his research useless? That's not right. If he was really a useless researcher, how could he still level up? It was much more advanced than many of the systems he had encountered before. Not to mention 222, even 111 couldn't beat him. He had crushed all of them. The next day, Tang Qingru came back with a cold face. It could be seen from her expression that something serious must have happened. Tangwa asked appropriately, "Mom, did something serious happen?" Tang Qingru replied indifferently. Actually, this was her personality. She was cold to everyone, but she was slightly better in front of He Ting. But ever since she found out that she and He Ting might have maintained this kind of familiar and unfamiliar relationship, even when facing He Ting now, she still had a cold expression on her face, let alone when facing Tangwa, who was not her biological daughter, but the daughter of her younger sister and the man she liked. Chapter 2695. Have you finished your lessons this morning? Yes, I've submitted my homework to your mailbox. Tang Qingru didn't ignore her, but she didn't communicate much with her. In this kind of family, especially with a cold-faced person, there wouldn't be much communication at all. She usually submitted one copy of her lessons to the teacher and the other to Tang Qingru. She was very talented, and Tang Qingru also valued this. Tangwa was eating the fruit of the interstellar. It was fresh, but it didn't have enough water. It looked a little dry and didn't taste very sweet. But this kind of treatment was already very good in the interstellar. When a large number of plants died in the past, the interstellar took emergency measures to freeze some fresh fruits and vegetables. But now those frozen things were very precious and wouldn't be taken out easily. Tang Qingru answered and opened her mailbox to check Tangwa's lessons. After reading it, although her face was still cold, one could still see some satisfaction in her eyes. You'll be 8 next year. At that time, I'll propose to the family to let you go to the training ground to practice operating mecha. Before that, you must master all the theoretical knowledge of mecha. I've sent all the information to you just now. Take some time to read it yourself. If there's anything you don't understand, send me an email. Okay, Mom. System. The host is quite obedient as a little girl and calls her mom. She's quite good at pretending. The host is a wily old fox. If you didn't know her true colors when she was acting as a little girl, you wouldn't be able to act out. But he knew the truth, so he just thought it was funny. Of course, he just laughed secretly. He was afraid that he would be beaten if he laughed out loud. Remember, if you don't pass the theoretical knowledge of mecha next year, you'll lose the opportunity to practice operating mecha. You'll have to wait for a year and then take another test to qualify. Understood. Tang Qingru's face was not good because she received news that Tang Qianqian had been taken away first. Even if they tracked a little bit of her whereabouts, they couldn't take her back. Because Tang Qianqian's location was no longer in the territory of the Yuhao Alliance Empire. She had been taken away by the people of the Luo Luo Alliance Empire. As for the identity of the other party, they didn't know yet. She wasn't interested in talking about this with a 7-year-old girl. After telling Tanguy to read the information carefully, she went to the study. Tanguy skimmed through the theoretical knowledge on interstellar mecha. She was a little surprised when she saw the amount of information stored in the database. The life of a child in the interstellar galaxy is so tiring. You're only 7 years old this year and you've already seen so much. And it's only been a year. Hearing Tanguy's complaints, the system almost couldn't hold back its laughter. The genes of interstellar humans were close to perfection, and the host had mental energy of a certain level. The brains of interstellar humans had been developed to a certain extent. Therefore, you would be able to remember all this information after reading it once. Next year, Great Host still has to practice using mechas. No matter what world they were in, children with good family backgrounds would always have a higher starting point than most children. Their innate conditions determined their lives, and they were destined to be extraordinary. Tanguy didn't say anything. She just looked at the information silently. She was not worried about Tang Qianqian. Chapter 2696. As for He Ting, he should be back soon to bring her to the laboratory for a blood test. When he found out that there was no special power in her blood, he would let the people in the laboratory do all kinds of experiments on her mental strength. It could be said that this was the beginning of the destruction of the original owner. It was her biological father who had single-handedly caused it. She still didn't want to change this process. However, since they had hurt her, she had to repay them by giving them some gifts. The next day, Tang Qingru went out early in the morning again. After Tanguy finished her course and submitted it, she locked herself in the room. Great Host, are you looking for these herbs to study how to make the interstellar plants grow? It seems like a good idea to be a savior. Oh, savior? I'm not interested. Tanguy, who was seriously preparing the medicine, had a serious expression on her face. She didn't even raise her head as she replied, "We haven't found the source of the virus, so we can't make a medicine that can make the plants grow." The system felt that it was true. If it was really that easy, with the advanced economy and technology, and with Emmanuel's hidden talent as a pharmacist, he would have been able to make such a medicine a long time ago. However, they couldn't find the source of the virus. Even if they could make some, when the virus invaded, the plants couldn't grow at all. Then why was Great Host fiddling with these medicines? If he didn't understand, he had to ask. This way, the system could continue to improve. I'm making some gifts for them. Gifts? For some reason, the system shuddered. It didn't think that it was anything good. For about a week after Tanguy finished her course, she would lock herself in the room to study the medicine. Seeing that the day of He Ting's return was approaching, the system finally saw a smile on Tanguy's face. Then, it watched in horror as its perverted Great Host injected the medicine directly into her arm. The system didn't feel good. Great Host, medicine can't be taken carelessly, and medicine can't be injected carelessly. If you want to do experiments, just get 2 white mice. Don't worry, I've injected myself with the antibodies. This medicine can't threaten my body. It's not the first time I've studied this kind of thing. I know my limits. Her nonchalant attitude made the system tremble even more. It felt that the person who bullied the host next would be unlucky. To solve the blood problem, Tanguy injected herself with a very special virus. Whoever dared to take her blood for experiments would have to bear the consequences of taking her blood. As for experiments on spiritual power, she was even less afraid. The original owner's spiritual power was ranked, but hers wasn't. She was stronger. At that time, whoever dared to experiment on her would suffer the most severe backlash. When He Ting came back, he saw the 7-year-old girl sitting on the sofa, eating her food in small bites. She was very obedient. With his excellent genes, this little girl was naturally perfect in terms of talent and appearance. In a trance, he seemed to see a strange smile on the little girl's face. However, when he took a closer look, she raised her head and smiled sweetly at him. She even called him Daddy. He was an apathetic person. Even if this was his daughter, he didn't feel much. However, because of her talent, he remembered this little girl. He also knew that this little girl wasn't his and Tang Qingru's child, but his and Tang Qianqian's child. Chapter 2697. He Ting had never planned to fuss over the time when he was set up by the Tang family. This result was undoubtedly the most beneficial to the two families. But he really didn't expect that Tang Qianqian, an ordinary woman with a useless D-grade mental power, would have a special talent. She could make plants grow again. Moreover, the plants she planted were not afraid of the virus that killed plants. They were not affected at all on the remote and backward Phoenix Tail planet and grew so luxuriantly. No one would be able to remain calm after hearing this news. No matter what the reason was, they had to find Tang Qianqian and bring her back. However, there seemed to be something wrong with Tang Qianqian's brain. She didn't even know how to hide such a serious matter and exposed herself to everyone. They were too late and Tang Qianqian was taken away. According to the latest news, the people who took Tang Qianqian away were from the Luo alliance. Therefore, it was impossible for the two allied empires to start a war at this moment. Xiaogua, have you finished your lessons for today? Like Tang Qingru, He Ting was actually not good with words. Especially when it came to this daughter whom he didn't have much time to interact with. He was even more stiff than Tang Qingru. I finished it, father. He Ting nodded gently and said, why don't I take you out for a walk? Is there any place you want to go or anything you want? Tangua rolled her eyes in her heart. She really didn't care about a father like He Ting. How could a man who couldn't communicate with and didn't like his child be a father? Then let's go out for a walk. He Ting's motive for coming back was naturally because he couldn't bring Tang Qianqian back. After some consideration, he felt that he could find the answer from his daughter who had Tang Qianqian's blood. No matter what, this concerned the survival of the galaxy. He had to try. Of course, he had to hide this from everyone. If others knew that Tangua was Tang Qianqian's daughter, there would be a lot of disputes. As for the fact that his daughter was only 7 years old and had to undergo experiments, He Ting had also considered whether this was a little unreasonable. However, for the survival of the entire galaxy, even if it was his daughter, even if there was only a certain chance, he still had to try. If he wanted to find Tang Qianqian, he would undoubtedly have to pay a huge price and spend a lot of time. He might not even succeed. He Ting's words were actually in order, and no one could refute him. If it was the original owner of the body, He Ting would definitely be very happy to take her out to play. Although Tangua was unhappy in her heart, she still pretended to look forward to it. This made He Ting a little satisfied, and he quickly brought her out. Your mother has already sent you the mecha theory data? Hearing this, He Ting was a little surprised. After all, Tangua was only 7 years old. Then how much did you understand? I can understand it. I've already read more than half of it. Hearing Tangua's words, He Ting was a little surprised. She had read more than half of it? How fast was this speed? At first, he didn't believe it. Later, he casually tested Tangua and found that she could understand it and had a good grasp of it. Chapter 2698. There was a complicated look in his eyes. There was no doubt that his daughter was very talented. It should be said that among her peers, there were not many who could compare to her talent. However, he was about to do something. No matter how talented she was, she had to accept the experiment. There would be many talented children in the future. As for the experiment, it was urgent. He had to get someone to confirm if Tangua had the talent that Tang Qianqian had. For a few days, He Ting brought Tangua out. He would bring her to see some different places and buy her some strange things that she didn't like at all. She also showed him her talent and the anticipation that a little girl had for her father. However, He Ting did not hesitate at all. He accompanied her for a few days as if he was completing a mission and did not let himself feel so guilty. This made her feel a little ridiculous. Apart from dealing with it on the surface, she did not put in any effort to do anything else. Since this was He Ting's choice, she would fulfill it. Recently, Tang Qingru was around and He Ting did not find a chance to bring Tangua to the secret laboratory. However, Tang Qingru soon had a new mission. He Ting finally had a chance to bring Tangua to the secret laboratory. That laboratory was filled with people he trusted. The reason for bringing Tangwa there was very simple. He wanted to bring her to another place to play today. Tangwa could tell, but she pretended not to know. Also, when she entered the secret laboratory, she realized that the signal of her personal terminal was blocked. However, with the system, it quickly connected her to the signal. Dear host, am I getting more and more powerful now? Being able to help Tangwa was the system's happiest thing. Tangwa praised, very powerful. After being praised, if the system had a tail, it would be very cocky. Father, where is this place? Tangwa looked at the people around her who were wearing white clothes, masks and hats. She showed a puzzled expression like a child. In fact, she really wanted to say Mama in her heart. Xiaogua, this is a secret laboratory. Yiting did not lie. I brought you here today to ask you for a favor. Yes, in the beginning, Yiting only wanted the original host to agree to let these people study her blood. She had to stay here while the blood was being studied. What they needed to do every day was to provide blood for the laboratory. She was right here, alive. Of course, these people didn't care about wasting blood. If they ran out of blood, they would take it from her body. Actually, under such circumstances, it wouldn't hurt her too much. Only when everyone in the laboratory was certain that there was nothing of value in her blood would they suggest the research on mental power to Yiting. Even though Yiting had thought about it for a while, he knew that SS spiritual power was rare. Once she started researching spiritual power, it would cause great harm to her. There was a possibility that she would become a cripple after the experiment, but he still agreed. Because she was Yiting's daughter and had such great talent, the researchers who conducted the experiments were actually very well informed when they conducted the experiments. However, after each experiment, she still suffered a certain degree of damage. Until she was snatched away. She landed in another laboratory. This time, the researchers were not as polite to her. When it was time to draw blood, he would draw blood without caring about her physical condition. Chapter 2699. When it was time to conduct a mental strength experiment, he didn't hesitate at all. In that experiment, the original owner was seriously injured. Thinking of those memories, a cold look flashed across Tangwa's eyes. Of course, the people in the laboratory didn't notice anything unusual about this 7-year-old girl. After getting Yiting's consent, they drew a large tube of her blood. Tangwa looked at them carefully holding a test tube of blood, and a smile appeared on the corner of her lips. Of course, in the eyes of others, this smile was just the little girl's happiness at being able to help her father. They didn't know that there was a very scary substance in the blood in the test tube. This was Tangwa's gift to them, and also her revenge. Who asked them to draw her blood? Can't I go home? Tangwa asked even though she knew the answer. Yiting nodded stiffly. I can't go back for now. Then I still have classes every day. If I can't finish them, my performance marks will be deducted at the end of the semester and I won't be able to get full marks. There was no signal on her personal terminal here, so she couldn't receive the classes assigned by the teachers and couldn't submit homework. Dad will settle this. The teachers will make an exception. After all, what Xiaogua is doing now is very important. Yiting wasn't speaking without thinking. That day, he asked someone to help Tangwa apply for leave. As for her classes, they would make up for it after she left. The school would still give some face to the He family and wouldn't make things difficult for her. On the first day, those people only drew a large test tube of her blood. On the second day, they drew 2 test tubes. From the 5th day onwards, they had to draw 3 test tubes every day. Tangwa's originally rosy face started to turn pale. The system looked a little uncomfortable. It drew circles and cursed Yiting every day. But it knew that it couldn't stop the host. She had a kind of madness in her bones. Only a gentle person and a gentle world could calm the madness and brutality in her bones. Now that Yiting asked these people to draw her blood for experiments, she already hated it. She would do as they wished. In fact, he really wanted to know what kind of virus was in the blood that could make his host so happy like a real child every time she talked about gifts. After drawing her blood for 10 days, Tangwa's face was very pale and she had lost a lot of weight. Host, when you go out, you have to nourish yourself well. You are still a child now and you are still growing. If this goes on for a long time, you won't be nutritious. The system felt that it was really worried sick because of a troublesome fellow like He Ting. While the people in the laboratory were studying Tangua's blood, they would also regularly sprinkle Tangua's blood on some potted plants. Of course, these potted plants were brought out of the laboratory and placed in different environments. For now, they didn't find anything useful. Tang was Tangua to meet Tang was Tang's eyes to meet Tang with Tang. Tangua also remembered that because they were too excited this time, they forgot to ask about the main plot of this world. She also forgot to tell them. It might not be convenient for me now. I have been sent to a secret laboratory by the biological father of this body. Billy, school beauty, what's the matter? Do you need our help now? Chapter 2700. Emmanuel was a bit anxious. When did this happen? As expected, you're still a child and very weak. If I had known earlier, I would have been the one to protect you. So, how can we help you, school beauty? Billy asked again. It's not hard for me to escape, but I don't want to right now. He placed me in this laboratory because my mother was secretly taken away by your Luo alliance. The chances of bringing her back are very small and it will take time. So, he set his sights on me. In just a short sentence, the two understood Tangua's current situation. Soon, they remembered that Tangua knew about the development of this world's storyline and beat them at their own game. She probably wanted to take revenge on those who had hurt the original owner. Emmanuel asked again, you really don't need our help, do you? We're all worried about you. Are you sure you can escape when your life is in danger in this laboratory? Although the school beauty was very strong, she was still a 7-year-old girl. In the galaxy, even if she escaped, she would be easily found unless she went to a remote place. Don't worry, you don't have to come over for now. According to the storyline, I should be taken away by the Luo alliance. At that time, we'll meet again. Let's wait for a while. She still had to fall into those people's hands. After all, those people had hurt the original owner. She had to deal with them one by one. She searched through her memories and confirmed that Billy and Emmanuel didn't seem to have anything to do with the original owner. Her expression relaxed a bit. If these two fellows were really here, she would be able to deal with them. At this moment, Emmanuel and Billy both felt an inexplicable chill. Billy and Emmanuel were still worried. They discussed this in the group, but they couldn't think of any good ideas. After interacting for so long, they knew Tangua's personality. Once she decided on something, no one could change it. In the end, they agreed that they should send people to investigate first. Even if they didn't interfere with Tangua's matters, they should still make preparations in secret. If something unexpected happened, they would be able to come out and help her immediately. For this reason, Ziyun and the other two even gave Billy and Emmanuel a lot of celestial vegetables and fruits, although the two of them refused. They all felt very lucky that the school bell could come here. They were willing to help her. There was no need to do this. However, Ziyun and the other two said that these were all for emergency use. When the time came for their sister to live here, they would definitely use the best things and could not be neglected. They were in different small worlds, so they couldn't search for her and take care of her. This was the only way. Tangua listened to the system explain to her what had happened in the group while her blood was being drawn. The system could feel that its energy, which had stagnated due to recent events, was beginning to increase again. Sure enough, it was a great thing that the host was happy. If that was the case, did the lights below the heavenly spring really have something to do with whether the host was happy or not? That was great. The person who researched him must have been a fool. That was why he was so stupid at the start. Tang Qingru came back and found that Tangua wasn't at home. She checked the records and found out that He Ting had taken Tangua out. Combined with what had happened recently, she felt that something was wrong. This was the first time she took the initiative to look for He Ting. Where's Xiaogua? Chapter 2701. Xiaogua isn't staying at home for the time being. Then where did you take her? I want to see her now. Immediately. Tang Qingru had always been a cold person. Now that she was angry, she exuded a cold aura. There's nothing I can do about that, He Ting replied. He didn't tell Tang Qingru that he had sent Tangguo to the secret laboratory. Tang Qingru's eyes gradually turned cold. She looked directly at He Ting. She's your daughter. She's only 7 years old this year, He Ting. I know. You know. At this moment, Tang Qingru understood the reason. He Ting had taken Tangguo away at this time and didn't let her see her. She had already heard that He Ting had specially applied for a year's leave from the school. The reason for the leave wasn't written. But this wasn't a problem. With the He family's ability, the school wouldn't ask anything if they applied for leave. But this matter was serious. What exactly was the matter that required him to apply for a year's leave for Xiaoguo? There was only one possibility. He Ting knew that Xiaoguo was Tang Qianqian's daughter. Tang Qianqian couldn't be found now. Because of that alluring special ability, he had made a move on that 7-year-old girl. Tang Qingru's expression turned colder. You knew from the start. Yes. He Ting didn't deny it. Even if Tang Qingru objected, it was useless now. He wouldn't tell her where the secret laboratory was. Even if she knew where it was, would she dare to blow up the laboratory with a mecha and snatch her? As a soldier of the Cosmic Alliance Empire, he would be punished for blowing up the laboratory with a mecha without permission. He Ting, where is Xiaoguo? She's very talented. In the future, she will definitely become the most outstanding soldier of the Empire. She shouldn't have encountered such a thing. Tang Qianqian's talent came out of nowhere. I don't think there's a second person with such a rare and strange talent. You're doing useless work. Not only are you doing useless work, you're also destroying a very talented child. In the future, this child should be an existence that protects the Empire. She shouldn't become your experimental subject. He Ting's expression didn't change at all. There will be many outstanding children in the Empire. Regardless of whether it's grade or grade, there will be more in the future. But I only found Tang Qianqian's talent, and Tang Qianqian only has one daughter now, so it's very likely that she carries her strange genes. No matter how small the chances are, this concerns the survival of the universe. I have to make this choice. Actually, you're not sure, are you? You can't bring Tang Qianqian back, so you chose to sacrifice a 7-year-old girl? At this moment, He Ting's heroic image in Tang Qingru's eyes instantly collapsed. Over the past 7 years, the little bit of affection she had for him had gradually faded away, but now, there was nothing left. You should leave. No one can stop this. I'm leaving. Tang Qingru understood that she couldn't get Tangguo back no matter what she said. Now, she could only think of another way. It would be best if she could secretly follow He Ting and find an opportunity to take Tangguo away. 1 year later, no matter what the outcome is, I'll let Xiaoguo return to her normal life. Hearing He Ting's voice, Tang Qingru turned around. Are you sure that Xiaoguo will still be Xiaoguo a year later and won't be hurt at all? He Ting, you're hurting your own daughter. Chapter 2702. Qingru, you have to keep this a secret. You can't let anyone know. Otherwise, Xiaoguo will be in danger. A smile appeared on Tang Qingru's cold face. It was a mocking smile. You are her greatest danger. Tang Qingru secretly followed He Ting for a few days and finally found the location of the laboratory. However, the laboratory was very secure. She couldn't enter. She couldn't fight with He Ting either. Otherwise, once the matter was exposed, it would bring great danger to Tangguo. Ask the family for help? She had never thought of this. Once the family knew, they would probably plan to put Tangguo in another laboratory. Currently, the family didn't seem to have realized this. After all, who would think of this? But at this time, the news that Tangguo was Tang Qianqian's daughter had already been found out by one of the candidates for the successor of the empire. Lu Xiaoyang, the youngest son of the president of the Great Universe Alliance Empire. He was very talented and was also very ambitious. From the beginning, he had his eyes on He Ting. Therefore, he planted someone beside He Ting. He had never used this person before. Although he wasn't He Ting's most trusted person, it was easy for this person to find out some secrets. He Ting did this matter with Tangguo very secretly. But no matter how secretive it was, the people around him would inevitably find out. You said that the little girl called Tanghua is He Ting and Tang Qianxian's daughter? Yes, that's right. Although He Ting has been very mysterious recently and doesn't bring anyone with him when he goes out. But that day, when I was sorting out the information, I accidentally found 2 paternity tests about genes. It clearly shows that Tang Qianxian and Tanghua are mother and daughter. The other one is between Tang Qingru and Tanghua. It's obvious that they aren't mother and daughter. Judging from the date, this paternity test was done 7 years ago. Lu Xiaoyang immediately laughed out loud. Very good. What a good He Ting. He has a good daughter. No matter what, he had to get his hands on that little girl. When the laboratory decided to conduct a mental strength experiment on Tanghua, Lu Xiaoyang had already brought his men to surround the laboratory. Dad, I have a headache. It's so uncomfortable. My brain feels like it's going to explode. I don't want to stay here anymore. Take me home. I haven't seen my mother for a long time. I miss her. He Ting stood outside and ignored Tanghua's painful words. Tanghua suddenly said, Dad, you're lying to me, right? He Ting still didn't say anything. The experiment had to continue. It didn't matter even if his daughter hated him in the future. The corners of Tang's lips curled up. When those mind powers probed in, he instantly used his powerful mind powers to swallow their mind powers. The researcher who had been probing her spiritual powers suddenly felt that something was wrong. He wanted to retreat, but it was too late. The experiments were conducted in a specialized laboratory. The door could only be opened from the inside. Even if He Ting felt that something was wrong, there was nothing he could do. Recently, Tang Qingru had been with him. In order to reduce trouble, he rarely came over. Today, he had to come and take a look because of the spiritual power experiment. Dear host, what are you doing? The system asked in shock. Those people looked like they were in pain. Of course I'm swallowing their mind powers. Their mind powers have been scanning my brain and making me very uncomfortable. I can only swallow them. System, I'm scared. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.